Good evening. Good evening, everybody. All right. Thanks for coming. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Candidates Forum. I'm Sandy Chapin, the Membership Development Coordinator for the Greater Kokomo Chamber of Commerce. Tonight's event is the first of two forums for this year's primary election on May the 7th. The second forum will be 1 week from tonight, same time, same location. The event is sponsored by the Kokomo Perspective, the Kokomo Tribune, the League of Women Voters of Howard County, and the Greater Kokomo Chamber of Commerce. This evening, we will have two sessions, and the first we'll hear from candidates for City Council District 3, and the second session, candidates for City Council at large. Thank you, first and foremost, for all of you for attending this evening. We appreciate it. Thanks to the candidates for your participation. I'm excited. We have a full house of candidates this evening. And I'd also like to introduce Ms. Peg Harmon, President, League of Women Voters of Hamilton County, as our moderator for tonight's event. Peg's going to explain the format for tonight's forum and get us started in the right direction. So thank you, and thank you, Peg.
Thank you, Sandy. I am very honored to be here tonight as the moderator. I was a member of the League of Women Voters of the Howard County area until I retired from the Kokomo-Howard County Public Library in 2014, where I worked for 25 years. So in case you were wondering why my name sounded familiar, now you know. Let me introduce our panelists, the candidates, and explain how the forum will proceed. Starting on the left, we have Jeff Kowalski representing the Kokomo Tribune, where he is the editor. In the middle, we have Marcus Misnick, who is a partner in Bailiff, Harrigan, Cord, Moggins, and Cox PC. He is representing the Greater Kokomo Economic Development Alliance and the Assistant General Counsel for the First Farmers Bank and Trust. And our last panelist is Don Wilson. He's the Publisher Emeritus representing the Kokomo Perspective. For our candidates, starting on the left, we have Kathy Cox-Stover, and the second one is John Wright, and they are both Democratic candidates. For the format this evening, each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute opening statement and a 2-minute closing statement. Questions will be asked on a rotating basis by the three panelists. So the candidates will alternate on who responds to the questions first. In our second session this evening, where we have 5 candidates, they will answer in turn as indicated on a table which we have provided. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the questions. A 30-second rebuttal will be allowed at my discretion upon request. The panelist may, at his discretion, ask follow-up questions based on a candidate's answer or ask for clarification of an answer from a candidate. All questions were generated by the representatives from tonight's sponsoring organizations. All questions will be asked by the panelists. No questions will be asked by candidates or the audience. The event is being videotaped for unedited rebroadcast on KGov. The League of Women Voters will serve as timekeepers. And Sandy, will you show your cards? So when you're answering your question, they'll show you your 30-second and then your stop. And I would like to ask everyone, please, to silence your mobile devices. Thank you. So let's go ahead and get started. We will first start with opening statements with Kathy. 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Stover. I'm running for City Council District 3. I would like to say welcome to everyone tonight. I'm thrilled to be a part of this, and thank you for this opportunity to let me speak to you for your candidates tonight. A little bit about me. I have been in community service in Howard County. I've lived in Howard County my whole life. I have a real passion for Howard County and the city of Kokomo. I'm running because I'm a problem solver. If you know me very well, you see that I have a notebook all the time with me. I'm always taking notes. I always want to hear what the people have to say. You tell me the problem and I solve it. If I can't solve it, I'll find someone that can. I love working in the community. As I said, I've had 32 years of community service here. A couple of things that I do, I do serve on a couple of boards. A couple of the boards that I serve on right now, I am vice president of the Parks Department Board. I am the president of the Howard County Library Board, and I am past president of the Howard County Historical Board. As I said, I love to be part of the solution. I don't want to be a problem. And I want to hear from each and every one of you, and I have from so many of you when I've knocked on doors that have told me, and I've had my notebook right there, and so I can probably go back and tell you everything that everybody has told me. A little bit about myself personally. I've raised my children here. I have 2 children. I have 8 grandchildren. My other job is I am a director in the Indiana Men's Prison System. My main office is out at Miami Correctional, which is the largest facility in Indiana out of the 26 facilities. So I work with 3,200 men every day, teaching them programming, working with volunteers, and trying to make them better men when they leave our facility than when they entered. So thank you.
My name is John Wright, running for 3rd District. I am 4th generation Kokomo resident, married to Sharon R. Wright of 42 years, who works at Chrysler. We have 3 children, Christina Smith, Dustin Wright, and Zachary Wright, and 8 grandchildren. I am retired sheet metal worker of 35 years. I have served as statewide business agent and trustee for Local 20. I've held several positions on the Central Labor Council, and I've held positions as vice president of the Sheet Metal Workers International Production Council of the United States, Puerto Rico, and Canada. I served as clerk treasurer of Greentown. I also have served on the church board and church trustee. My issues I am running on are public safety, correct staffing for the fire department, police department, and street department. The need to bring back the fire department ambulance service, which I've heard a lot about. A lot of citizens want that back. Street lighting in Indian Heights that's been promised, that's not been given. And a walkway on North Street, eastbound and westbound between Ohio Street and 931. Public needs projects will be my first and foremost priority.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are ready to start with the questions, and we'll start with you, John, or Jeff, sorry.
Mrs. Cox-Stover, you're a problem solver.
Yes, I am.
What legislation idea would you bring to the city council if elected right away?
What problem?
No, what legislative idea?
Oh, what legislative idea? The one thing I think, and everybody in public-wise, they need to be more aware of some of our bills and stuff that are being passed in the State House, and to know what exactly is in those bills. As far as an idea that that I can get out to the people on those legislative ideas is to, as I said, you do need to be more aware of what's being in some of those bills. And if you have questions or concerns, I would love to hear those in order to get those to talk to our legislator. In fact, I have been down at the State House a couple of times already this year.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to know what you would propose for the city council to discuss.
Oh, for the city council
Yes.
to discuss? I would propose that they need to discuss on to bring in, we need to think of more ways in order for jobs. I think we have our manufacturing jobs, and I think a lot of those will be being automated. So those, we need to talk to the city council about bringing in new ideas, young ideas, fresh ideas for that.
Mr. Wright, same question.
Same question. I think that the city council needs to take a look at doing something about the 50/50 sidewalks. We have a lot of people in Kokomo who are living check to check. They need their sidewalks fixed and they have no way to do it. And it's really a burden when it's a 50/50 program. So we've got to look at a way and something to pass that we can help the poor and the middle class be able to take care of those things.
Thank you.
Okay, next question, Marcus?
Mr. Wright, I'm going to stay with you to start off here and kind of segue into, you just mentioned that several folks in the community are living paycheck to paycheck, and in order to improve our public safety, which seems to be your platform, we need to help those in the poor and the middle class. I'm going to ask you, what do you believe to be the biggest economic challenge facing the community in order to, I guess, achieve your public safety goals?
Well, I think that Kokomo has brought a lot of jobs, have come to town. But my worry with that portion of it is that we have Chrysler Automotive in Kokomo, and with the change of them going to high-tech electric cars, electric trucks, we're going to see change in the community. So we're going to have to be looking at opportunity for smaller factories, smaller jobs, smaller businesses, to get them to move in, to adapt to the smaller portion of things that need to be done for Chrysler and other projects.
Ms. Cox Stover, same question.
That's kind of when I was talking about earlier about the automation. We're going to have, with things changing, the electric cars and so much manufacturing, because we've got like 50% of Chrysler in them that's ready to retire. We have to think of another way in order to bring in new ideas without more or less having all of our eggs in one basket, and to bring in, I think this is where the younger people would really help in getting new ideas. If we're going to have automation here, then we need to find a way to educate our children to want to get into more engineering and to find ways that could possibly work on robots or the automation process that they're having into the facility. So.
Thank you.
I'll stay with Mr. Wright. You mentioned in your opening statement return to the correct staffing level of the fire department and police department.
Yes.
Are we understaffed, overstaffed?
Well, according to the 2019 budget, it could be staffed more than what it is. And from numbers I've been told of different numbers of the police, fire, and street departments, the police department used to be staffed at about 113. They're staffed at about 80 right now. And we have a lot of crime on the street. And I know that it's been reported things are getting better. I think they're worse. And if we could staff the police with more...
What do you base that we're getting worse?
I just think that crime is worse than being reported,
Just an assumption?
in general.
Just a general assumption?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's
we're
what
just
that's what the
keeping-
public's telling me.
We're just keeping the news from you?
I hope not.
Well, that's what you just said.
I hope not, but when you go door to door and talk to citizens, they feel different about things. That's what I have to work off of. And people tell me that it takes a long time to get an officer to come out when things are happening, and that some things will happen and they're put on a lower grade level because they don't want to, it doesn't want to have to be dealt with. Our officers, we have great officers in this community, best in the world, but they are understaffed. Like I said, from down to 80 officers right now, with 3 or 4 more retiring in the next month. We need to be back up to 113 because of what folks are saying in the community, so they can see their police officers and they'll deter the crime that's happening in the city of Kokomo.
Okay, can we get back to the questions?
That pretty much was the question.
That was your question?
Kathy,
Yes.
your response, do you think we're at the proper levels?
I think we need to look at the population and the geographics and go over that, the geographic area, and move forward on what we need. If we need to hire additional firefighters or additional police. But I think we need to be somewhat comparable to other cities our size. And as I said, really look at what we have here as far as population and geographic. And I believe our numbers that we have right now, reporting those, is numbers that were all reported by our sheriff's department, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, we just need to go over and look at all those numbers, population, geographic, and see what is needed, if any, or if we're too high on our numbers.
Can I make a comment?
Do you believe we're understaffed or overstaffed?
I think we need to look at that to see the numbers on that.
Thank you.
And to just see what our geographic and population area here is on that.
So John, was that a request for rebuttal?
Not a full rebuttal, but in my statement about the police officers in the territory, we have annexed more and more into Kokomo. Our police department has gone down and down. And that's what I'm talking about. We've got to do something about that. When you take on more area, you're going to have more crime. You have police officers out there in the neighborhoods, and they're being seen. They deter crime. And crime is worse. I live in an area where it's nothing for me to hear gunshots once a week. I know it's not fireworks, but it gets reported as fireworks.
Thank you very much, John. So can we move on to the next question?
Okay. City Council's been in the limelight for two reasons recently in Kokomo. That was the smoking ban that was passed, a comprehensive smoking ban, and the city's LGBT legislation. Mr. Wright, did you support these ideas, and what kind of impact have they had on the community?
Well, I think they were passed by the people in office at the time, of course. I would want to hear on both of them from both sides of people myself on how our community feels about both issues. I've not been in the middle of that, so that's a very hard judgment to make. If I was on the council and those two things came before me, I would want to talk to the bar owners. I'd want to talk to the community and find out what the community wants done, not what I want done.
Okay, this is all law. It's in the city
Right.
code.
It's law
You
now, yeah.
support.
I have to support it, it's law.
Okay. Ms. Cox-Stover.
I have talked to several of the bar owners before and after regarding the smoking. They were very concerned that if they would take the smoking out, that and no longer be able to smoke in their bars, it would lose business. All the bar owners that I have talked to, which I have not talked to everyone, but several that says it has not hurt their business at all. If anything, they have gained more business. So as I said, I have not talked to all of them. I've just talked to a couple of them, but that's what they have listed. So it did not hurt their business like they thought it was going to.
How do you think the LGBT legislation affected the community?
I think there's a very strong presence of that in our area here, that they work with the community. I don't know that, that it's affected like any certain area to say, but, I know that with them, most of them are very strong in the community and for the, volunteer services that they do or however they're involved. But I would have to look at that and look into that more.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you want
we
Mr. Wright to elaborate?
ready for the next question?
I have a very quick follow-up, Ms. Coxville. When you say they, them,
They, them.
who are you referring to?
As far as the smoking, it would be bar owners. As far as LGBTI, it would be the LGBTI community.
Okay, so
Yes.
the lesbian and gay community?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to continue on the same track as far as business development. I know you both mentioned in your openings, and matter of fact, you've tied it into some of your responses thus far, as to new business. In order to entice new business, there has to be, a lot of times there has to be incentives. First and foremost, do you agree with that? And if so, what type of incentives do you think would serve to achieve that objective? I'll ask Mr. Wright, you go first.
Well, I think that the council, the new upcoming council, should be looking at any financial thing that they can do. They should be looking for every little single way they can help new business come in.
Give me 1, 2 examples of every single, what do you believe? I believe you want to be on that council, correct?
Right.
And so what do you believe might be an incentive?
Tax abatements, hook them up with any training we can get locally. I know there's a lot of the schools, there's Ivy Tech, everybody's looking at training. We need to hook them up with the training, make sure they know what we're going to have available, and have a good picture for them, because that's the only thing that's going to bring the new business in, because it is high tech. Things are changing, rapidly changing, and the younger people are, the next generation is about to take over, and we've got to be prepared for those younger ones to go to work.
And how do you recruit? How do you recruit new businesses?
You recruit with businesses by having good pay, which is a living wage, and some benefits, and that creates an incentive. If they can live good and they can survive in the community and they know that they can, that's going to help them.
That creates a solid employee.
Right.
Good pay and good benefit. How do you get that business, incentivize that business to come here that's going to have those good employees?
By having good employees, available employees. You have to have them trained, like I said. If you can show, you need CNC operators, and you don't have no CNC operators in the area, you got to get on the ball and make sure these groups that are training, get some people trained, and we have people available to fall into those positions.
Ms. Cox-Silver?
I think we should definitely have the abatements to bring in new business. Also, I do think that if we have an existing structure, an empty structure where we could bring in a new business that on a structure that's already here, let's say, for instance, the empty GM plant that's sitting on the corner of Boulevard and 931. I think if a business would want to come in that, we should give the abatements, we should train for whatever they want to. If they are looking at us, it's kind of like when you're getting ready to sell your house and bring that out. What do? You paint your house in order to get an interest in, so they'll come inside to look. Kind of like that with the city. You want to have a good look for the city so that businesses will want to come here. I had just read a report the other day even about Fisher's. It's growing so fast, but they are collecting those businesses by the way that their curb appeal and everything is for the city. So I do think that we should train, as I talked about earlier, as far as the automation. Things are changing at a very rapid amount. I think we have younger kids, our families that have, moved away that would like to come back.
Thank you.
Kathy,
Yes.
if necessary, how would you propose cutting the city budget in the event of an economic downturn?
I think you would have to go line by line through the city budget and actually evaluate what everything is going for. I don't think you can just say, we're going to cut this, we're going to cut that, we're going to cut that. You actually have to go and look how every penny is being spent before you can just say you're going to cut something.
Have you looked at the city budget?
Yes, in some parts I have, but not the entire thing.
Did you develop any opinions of what you would cut? Especially if we add 33 new law enforcement officers, that has to be paid for.
We're going to have to find some place for the money to come from in some of those areas. I mean, we always have some money, but you can't just cut something totally off in order to put money in another place unless you find another area for that to come from.
Mr. Wright?
I believe after looking at the budget, I believe that the budget for 2019 shows that there's room for these increases in these departments, the police department, fire department, and the street department. I believe that it's there. The money's there.
Where?
Well, the money's budgeted out, and then it's being not used and shown as money being saved when it's not used. That's basically what's occurring.
then, very well, if you're sure of that.
That's the way I read it.
Okay, thank you.
Next question.
Mrs. Cox-Stover. Housing has been a controversial issue in town. The City Council would approve zoning measures for housing projects or apartment projects. Do you support these efforts that are going on right now?
Yeah, I know that from the last report I read, Kokomo is like at a 97.7 capacity on housing. I know that if you have more housing for people to be here, they will also come. I think a lot of people from that I've talked to in my area seem to think that the city's in the rental business. You know, the city's building this apartment, the city's building that apartment. The city's not building that. That is all done by private investors that are coming in. And I think, as I had said earlier, about if you're going to come in and revitalize an older building to bring that in, then you should definitely get tax abatements and some other perks in order to bring that in to revitalize that building. But I do know that we are at a very high capacity now as far as housing, as far as what we have available. So,
Mr. Wright, same question.
Well, I believe we should, as a new council, should step in and should take a step back, measure up and see where we're at on the housing and the building. I don't think we need to take time to let it settle in and see where we are actually at instead of continuing to build. And that's what I've heard from citizens that they would like to see. They'd like to see a step back and see if it's really necessary.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And we were trying to alternate on who answers the questions first. Okay, so John would be first on the next one.
Mr. Wright, this is a kind of a combo question of enticing good employees to come to the area, as well as to see how well you know your community. Okay, I'm going to present you a little scenario in that I'm an out-of-towner attending a conference at the new convention center. Okay, I've walked out after a long day of boring lectures with a group of people, and I'm looking for something to do here in Kokomo for the evening. Give me a way to spend my time, with the group that I'm with, and something that's going to get me to come back, even if it's not for a conference.
Well, first thing, probably walking out of the conference, they're going to want someplace to eat. And we do have great places in Kokomo to eat. And
tell me talk to me like I just ran into you on the sidewalk.
You have Applebee's, you have our restaurants downtown.
I don't want to drive.
You don't want to drive? If you're downtown, we have lots of stuff downtown. And our downtown is expanding.
Okay. Beyond grabbing a meal, I got a couple hours to kill. What do you recommend?
Well, if it's the right time of day, they could visit our visitor center and see what our visitor center has to offer. Or they could do that prior to, or that could be something they shouldn't really do at the convention, is have stuff available at the convention center that people can know where they can go and where they can't. That's a tough question because we have bars downtown, we have music that goes on at those, we have a lot of different things, and people tend to seek those out pretty easily.
Okay. Ms. Cox-Stover, same question.
I would say definitely go to the downtown area. That way you can go ahead and walk, depending on the time of year. If you're here during the summertime, I would say go ahead, walk over to our beautiful Jackrabbit Stadium, and you can even get something to eat there. There's several different options that you have there. Watch a good baseball game. After you get through, walk along on the Nickel Plate Trail, see some of the city. I would say if baseball wasn't your thing, As I said, depending on the time of the year, it could be soccer. If you're here in the winter, try some ice skates on and use the baseball stadium as it's being utilized all year round for different things. If that is not what you're into, then you could walk down and see the beautiful Cyberlane Mansion on Sycamore at Christmas time. It's very beautiful. Or you could just go in through the week. We also have the Elwood Haynes Museum and the cars that you could go see. And they've tried to make this all possible for a nice walk through the city on the Nickel Plate Trail.
Thank you.
And,
Kathy,
yes.
what do you believe is the biggest need for the 3rd District that you would like to try to facilitate?
Well, the 3rd District, we've had some really good changes in the 3rd District. There have been some new businesses come. In the 3rd District, we've just had Browhat Ford that just built a new dealership and came there. Also, my hat's off to the people for the Markland Mall. When Sears closed, I've been in several other cities where Sears closed and then it was just one store after the other till they got there. But I would like to, as far as bringing in more business to that area, we've had some churches come into there. I would also like, I heard I would like some more street lighting in that area too. Jobs. We need to reach out and see if we can find someone job-wide to fill the corner of Boulevard and 931. Because when you come into the city, it would be wonderful even if we could divide the old GM plant up to get several new businesses to come in there, which would be great since we're going and changing so quickly for the automation, that if we set up there in the high schools, they have got, she told me to stop. Sorry. Robotics. Oh.
Mr. Wright, what's the biggest need for the 3rd District, as you said?
Like I said earlier, sidewalk between North Street and 931 for citizens to walk. We have a lot of people almost get hit there. I drive that a lot myself. And like I said earlier, Indian Heights has no lighting. I did a video of how dark it was out there. You couldn't see your hand before your face, and cars are flying through there. And there's other areas throughout the 3rd District too that the lighting is just not good enough. And that is another stem for crime. If there's no lighting, it can bring crime.
Thank you.
Mr. Wright, the city is embarking on a bike sharing program for the summertime. Do you think that's a waste of time and resources? Does this offer the city an opportunity to improve its health standing? What do you think?
I think it's a great improvement. We bothered to build a long trail that a lot of people love, and it's close to completion. The bike deal would be a very good thing for this community. I think it should be started off small, see how it works out. Not go wild with it, but go into a small bike program and see if it's used or not.
Mrs. Cox-Stover.
I am for the bikes. I can't wait till they get here because I can't tell you how many times I would love for me and my grandkids to go for a bike ride, and I really don't have the size car where I can get 5 or 6 bikes in my car. And so the way I understand it, it's going to be a free program, and I know even the cities that have had programs that they've paid for it, it's worked out really, really well. So I'm looking very forward to that. And it's a way, after the report that came out, that we're said that we're not the healthiest county. So I think it's a way to get our kids and stuff away from video games and from spending so much time inside, and to get them back out, as a lot of us was when we was growing up, where we rode bikes till the street lights came on or whatever. So I think that would be a great asset to the community.
Thank you.
Ms. Cox-Stover, I believe this is the last question I'm going to be able to ask, and for me it's the most important one. During my military career, I've had the opportunity to serve for and with some incredible leaders of people who come from all walks of life. that have one goal, and that's to achieve one mission. Are you a leader of people, and if so, why?
Yes, I do feel like I'm a leader of people. I like to bring people together. I like to make people feel at ease and work together on one project. I think we all, the citizens that are even here tonight, we all have a passion for the city in which we live, or we wouldn't be here. And I like that, bringing them together because we've all got the same goal in mind. We want what's best for Kokomo. We want what's best for for the citizens. We want what's best for you. Because as council members, we are the go-between between the people and the city. And so, as I said, we want what's best for everyone here and to have a voice in that.
Even if the idea is posited by somebody from the other party?
So, yes. I mean, I've always worked well with both parties. I work well with people. I'm always willing to listen. As I said earlier, I'm a problem solver. If I take a note and you have a problem and I can't solve it myself, I will find you someone that can.
Mr. Wright?
Yes, I started campaigning and working at age 18, going door to door for people like Steve Daly and some judges and different people we've had. And in my job as business agent for sheet metal workers, I represented over 10,000 people. I had to negotiate contracts for those folks to have a better life and better things. You have to be a people person in the world today if you want to be in any position to represent people.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
Do you have time?
Yes, we do. We have. We've got 8 minutes.
All right. Janie Young, your predecessor, seemed to be very available to her constituents. Do you have any unique ideas as to how you would make yourself more available to the 3rd District? Mr. Wright.
Well, living in the 3rd District and living right off of North Street, I definitely would like to drive my area on a regular basis, figure out where people are meeting in my area. Being retired, I can attend things and I can do things, and that's my plan, is to be very big in the 3rd District, very, very bigly seen. I want to be the person that they go to. I want to be the person that they call when they see the community needs.
Ms. Stover?
Yes. I have the open door policy. Everyone that I've talked to, if I have no problem with giving out my phone number, if they have a concern at any time, my presence will be very known in the community. I think every community, in order to bring themselves together too, needs to have a neighborhood watch. I think when they have a neighborhood watch, it keeps the community's eyes on police reporting or anything else that's happening in that community. So one of my first things that I would do would be out to get to that point to where we could have those neighborhood gatherings in each one of those, so that way that I could be present at all those and to bring those people in. But my presence will be known very much, so I will be out talking to people as often as I can.
Okay, thank you. So is that it?
No, I got one.
Okay.
You both have been speaking about attracting businesses to the community. Michael Hicks, who's an economist at Ball State, says that businesses and development follow people. People don't follow businesses and development. Do you believe that?
I do.
Mr. Wright?
I do believe that. Where there are people, there's more opportunity to hire people, and that's why that is the way it is.
Okay, so that appears to be what the current mayor believes as well, that jobs follow people, not people follow jobs, which is why there was a lot of focus on beautification. So, again, is that where you still stand? You believe that we should continue to improve bike paths, improve walkability, improve housing opportunities in order to get those kinds of jobs?
Yes, we should. Very well should.
Mrs. Cox, what do you think?
Well,
Ms. Stewart?
I do think that people do follow jobs, and I'm going to explain myself on this one. If you would take a drive through either one of the Chrysler parking lots, you see Illinois, Minnesota, I mean, you see one after the other, because jobs opened up there and they came there, or they was transferred there. So I think there are some cases where people do follow jobs because they want to stay with that good pay, and wherever it is that they come from, they know that they can't get that same pay here. So that kind of works on both sides. As I said, I do think sometimes people follow jobs, but if they know where there's good paying jobs, and if Chrysler would say, okay, we're going to open up our doors and open up and hire another 4,000 people, people are going to come in because they're following a job.
Well, we already have 9,000 people who drive here
Yes.
every day
Yes.
to work. How do you fix that?
As far as getting them to stay here or to
Yeah.
get them to, well, we're back to the housing thing again. If we're to try to get them to move here, your city has to be inviting enough for them to come in. So I do think that we should keep doing some of the things that we are doing as far as the bike paths to attract them. I've heard a lot of comparisons. You want to be like Carmel or you want to be like Fishers. I don't think we necessarily do. We want what's right because it's the younger families. When we were young and our parents would do things, we would think that they were crazy because they were old people. And why are they doing that? It's the same thing now. We've got a whole nother generation that's coming in, and they don't want, where we wanted to have a house or a yard and take care of all that, a lot of the younger generation does not want to do that. They want to come in to a housing market that's here where they can, any extra time that they have, they don't want to be mowing the yard. They want to enjoy it with their families, to live here, to have a better quality of life, and that's what we have to offer.
Can I say one more thing about that?
Go ahead.
A lot of people who drive, you said 9,000, drive to Kokomo. A lot of people get jobs like at Chrysler, at Haynes International. They don't want to give up their roots where they came from. And if they don't have to drive too far, they're not going to get those people to move here. They will not leave their roots. If they coach Little League, they coach soccer, they do something in that other community, they're not going to move. But we do need to be ready with housing for the younger people coming in, and Kathy was right. The younger people don't want to mow. They want to walk right across the street to get everything they want. They want convenience. And that's the generation we're going to be dealing with.
So is that it for our questions tonight? Thank you very much, and thank you very much to our candidates. Let's give them an applause. We now have 2 minutes for your closing statements, and I believe we started with you first, so we'll start with John on the closing.
Again, my name is John Wright, running for 3rd District Council. I think, talking about our council, I think our council should be the one with the checks and balance on the mayor's administration, not a rubber stamp. And this is stuff that citizens have told me. They are ready for a new council from top to bottom. Kathy spoke about being on appointments that she has on park board and stuff. I know people who have been appointed to positions, and if they stand up for something different that they believe in, they've been removed and been replaced by other folks. And on that line of thinking, I think Kathy would be the same person. She would go along as a rubber stamp. I think that we should have a good council, a strong council. We have candidates on both sides, and we have great candidates. Mr. Skaggs is a great candidate. I've read about him. I've talked to people about him. He's a union brother. I appreciate him. And Ms. Kitts is a good person. I think that they make very good council people. We need change. People want change. Our firefighters need help. We don't have enough firefighters. When I went to the Heights last week to do some hand billing, there was 2 firefighters at the firefighter building there. Is that staffing Is that good staffing for the fire department? It's the same thing for the police department. We have officers who get calls. They don't have backup, or a detective has to come out to be their backup. These things need to change. This is my community. Community needs help in these areas. I love the firefighters. I love our police officers. We have the very best. And our street workers, they all put their lives online. Thank you.
My name's Kathy Stover, and I am running for City Council District 3. First of all, I would not be a rubber stamp. If anybody's worked with me on any committee, on any board, I'm a go-getter. I like change. I liked whatever's going to improve the city. John has talked about needing more firemen, and yes, that is something that we may have to do, but we need to go over and look at each of these areas. This is a new council. This is a new time. We are ready for change. When you look at all the positions open on the council this year, this is going to be a new group of people that's going to come together this year. So we need to be open to all of that, but I am not, and I would not be, a rubber stamp that goes away, just goes along with the crowd. I've never been that way, and I sure don't expect to start that way now. And I'm not that way at work. As I said, I told you where I work. So I'm interested in what's good for Kokomo. I'm interested in what's going to be good for you. I always have an open door policy. And I'm willing to hear any of you at any time and take your concerns forth and do what the people want me to do in that area that affects them both.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if you just have patience for a few minutes, we will change the candidates. And since we've already introduced the panelists, I will just introduce the candidates, starting on the left. Just wanted to be sure everybody was seated in the same order that I have on my notes here. Our first candidate is Jason Skaggs. Second candidate is Kara Kits McKibben, Matthew Grecu, Antonio Stewart, and Alex Clark. And these are our Republican at-large candidates. And we will start with opening remarks for 2 minutes, starting on the left with Jason.
Hello, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the Kokomo Tribune, Kokomo Perspective, and League of Women's Voters, and the Kokomo Chamber of Commerce for actually gathering us all together tonight, as well as our good Lord. My name is Jason Skaggs. I am running for City Council at large. I am a Republican and a strong conservative. I believe in limited government, and my purpose for running is, between my wife and I, we have 5 daughters and 8 grandchildren and 3 on the way. So it's my goal to make our community, to keep our community safe and prosperous for my grandchildren, my kids, and all of your families as well, and yourselves. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello. So can you hear me? My name is Kara Kits McKibben, and I'm running for City Council at large. I would like to thank IUK, the Kokomo Perspective, the Kokomo Tribune, the League of Women Voters, and the Greater Kokomo Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum tonight. Being here brings back special memories, as this is where I first met my husband. I have lived in Kokomo for 37 years, and I graduated from Kokomo High School in 2000. I attended IUK for 2 years before deciding to follow in the footsteps of my grandmother, and I've become a cosmetologist and esthetician. I'm married to Mike McKibben, a local firefighter. who's been on the department for 13 years, and we have 2 wonderful children, Marley and Cole. My reason for running for city council is simple. The concerns of Kokomo citizens are no longer being recognized and acted upon. As a first-time candidate, I'm looking to bring a fresh perspective to the city. Kokomo residents believe the streets are in horrible shape. The public safety has been neglected for far too long. As your councilwoman, I will help create a budget targeting these major areas of concern. Having a young family, I look forward to the continued improvement of our public parks and local universities. Having affordable, fun things for families to do and an educated workforce bodes well for both our city and job creation. I appreciate the opportunity to share my ideas tonight, and as always, I welcome your concerns and questions.
If it's easier, I think the mics do come out of the
Okay.
stands.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Matt Griku, and like everybody else, I'm running for the Republican nomination for City Council at large. It's a great honor to be here this evening and to have this opportunity to speak to you, and I thank the League of Women Voters and the Perspective and Tribune and the Chamber of Commerce for giving us this opportunity, and Indiana University for hosting us this evening. The reason I'm running is I have grown up with an understanding of the blessings we have in this community, and that's come from our family history. My family fled communist Romania to come to America, and they were welcomed into Kokomo, and our family has had great opportunity here. We live a life that we could have never ever dreamed of had our family stayed in Romania. My grandparents came here and were able to open a small business. My grandfather found work at the steel mill. I want to be able to help us keep making that available to people here in this community, to make Kokomo a place that gives people opportunities, that continues to be a place that our children want to continue to live. I'm a partner in Shirley and Stout Funeral Homes, had years of experience in managing a family-run business with my partner Jeff Stout, and I have a skill set through that I believe will be beneficial in helping to lead this community. So I look forward to the future here and what we're going to be able to do to make positive change. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tony Stewart, and I'm grateful to be before you today. My beautiful wife, Dana, is here, and I have 4 beautiful daughters. I pastor the Reformation Faith Ministries Church, and I've been in Kokomo for about 14 years now. There's a couple of things I'm running on. I'm running on safety, economic development, and the whole premise is of that we can change Kokomo. I look forward to answering the questions, and for you guys to get to know me from a personal point of view, not from what you've probably heard, because I think we can do some great things around here. And so I'm eager to get to know you and for you to get to know me and just answer these questions so you can see what my thoughts and what my heart is. So let's get it on.
Thank you, all the candidates before me, for thanking everybody, because that's a long list and I'm not going to go through it, but thank you guys nonetheless for having us here. Just like everybody else, I'm running for City Council at large. My name is Alex Clark. My wife Allison and I have been married for 4 years. We have a 3-year-old daughter, Hannah, expecting our second daughter, Haley, this August. I take great pride in the amount of work that my company does, work the community, helping KPD solve crimes and bring those to justice, the people who commit them. I'm a second-generation small business owner, and after almost 10 years of owning my own business, one of the most important things that I've learned is that the choices that I make today impact more than just myself and my family, impacts the life of my clients and their families and so on. That experience is what I plan to use as a member of City Council, and the people I've chosen to surround myself with as well, and their experience. And I will not promise you things that I cannot deliver on as a City Council member. There are certain things City Council can and cannot do, and I fully intend to make sure that I keep those things aware in the front of my mind at all times.
Okay, thank you very much. And before we start the questions, I do want to point out, you should have a table in front of you that actually shows you the order in which you answer the questions. So if the numbers going across the top, it would be like number 1 would be the first question, number 2 would be the second question. And this prevented it from you always following the same person with your answers. So, so that's what we will be following. And then I asked the timers to move over here so that hopefully they'll be easier to see over there. Okay, thank you. And we can go ahead and start with the questions, Jeff.
Okay. Mr. Stewart, my first question in the last round was so good, I'm going to ask it again. What specific piece of legislation do you plan on introducing to the Kokomo Common Council once you're elected?
It would probably be a part of workforce development. I think that Kokomo is definitely changing. I think that we've had a great run with manufacturing here. But the thing we need to change is get skills driven in here. I teach CNA classes and the students graduate in 6 weeks and they make $15 to $17 an hour. So for me, it would be funding students to be able to work for themselves and provide the funds to do that. And so if we can partner with other organizations so the students will be able to do that, that's the first thing I'll be able to do, because I think that that's what's needed. If we rely on that manufacturing and they leave, then there's no way we can keep up with the trends we need to.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, same question.
The very first ordinance I would probably offer would be a line item veto for the city budget.
For the mayor?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. McKibben. Same question.
Oh, it has me going last, sorry. The first ordinance I would pass would be when bills or ordinances are introduced, that I would make it a timely manner that the public is aware before things get passed. So if something is introduced on a monthly basis, I would allow a grace period of probably 30 to 45 days to really get these issues out into the community and make everyone aware and let them voice their opinion before bills before they're passed.
Okay. Mr. Skaggs?
The very first ordinance I would propose is term limits. Term limits for the mayor, for the city council at large, and for each district.
And what would those limits be?
Those limits would be for the mayor, it would be 2 4-year terms. For city council at large, 2 4-year terms, as well as each district 2 4-year terms. If the constituents would like to have their councilwoman or person serve more, then they would have to run at large, or vice versa with each district.
Okay. Mr. Breckie?
My first priority would be economic development, to utilize the resource that we have in the Economic Development Alliance, to see that we make funding available to fund their initiatives, to see that we're moving forward to create jobs. I don't think that has to be done exclusive of quality of life issues. I think they go hand in hand, but I think we need to have more of a direct emphasis on funding job growth, and that can be done through utilizing the resources we have, looking at a business park that would make site-ready business ventures more attractive to potential development. It's something that having the slow process that we have had in being able to attract business, we can make ourselves much more attractive if we have resources readily available.
So, for instance, you would like to see on Toby Pike an industrial complex that's shovel-ready, somebody came in, it's just plug and play, and you go.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not going to say it has to be on Toby Pike, but yes.
Okay.
Okay, before we go with I think we need some clarification on the table. I think that first set of rows here across the top you can disregard, and it's here. The second row of numbers is the number of the questions, and that's where you start from there, and then you go down in each column. Okay, so, okay, good. Thank you, Marcus. Go ahead.
Do that.
Mr. Clark, I have no idea what my first question was in the first group, so I have a terrible habit of using somebody's opening statement in my closing argument, and you stated in your opening statement that you're not going to make any promises that you can't keep.
Yes, sir.
Make me a promise that you can keep.
I can promise that the budgets that we pass as a city council, with my votes for that, would be for money that would be services that the city actually needs. And also to make sure that the money that we are giving those departments and those into those budgets is money that they actually do need. Overfunding budgets and certain departments with extra money that can then be turned back around and put back into the general fund at the end of the year, would do my best to make sure that stops.
Ms. Kitts McKibben. Same question. You didn't state that you weren't going to make any promises that you can't keep, but I'm going to hold you to the same question. Make me a promise that you'll be able to keep.
When decisions come across or brought to me, I will thoroughly research. I will meet with parties on both sides of the issue, and if need be, collaborate with issues at hand, whether it be job creation, public safety, improving our parks, bolstering more education here for IUK, Ivy Tech, trade schools. I would gladly set in on and listen and be open-minded before a vote. I vote yes or no. That's a promise I can make.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Griku.
My promise will be that I will work hard to make positive improvements in our city, that I will work with the new mayor, whoever that is, and with the city council as it is formed through the election, and that I'll work with people of both parties. It's something that I firmly believe that no one person has all the best ideas, and that through conversation with those other leaders and other members of the community, we will find the best ideas and the best solutions for our community. And my promise is that I'll work hard to do that with those other people.
Mr. Stewart? You got Mr. Stewart or Pastor Stewart?
You can call me Tony. That'll work.
Tony? That works?
I've been walking around and visiting with different fire stations and talking to different policemen. And what I will promise is that I will make sure that I have a real conversation, if elected, with the other councilmen and with the mayor about doing the necessary increases to make sure that our fireman numbers and our policeman numbers are appropriate. That's what I promise I will do.
Okay, you recognize, right, that the city council doesn't make any recommendations on staffing. I appreciate your passion about this, but this isn't your bailiwick.
Okay, so that's why I said I will sit down with the council and talk with them, make some discussion, and then go speak with the mayor. I understand how this works, perfectly clear.
All right.
All right.
Ms. Skaggs.
Okay, this is our third question.
Not only do I promise you, but I promise the rest of Kokomo, I will not vote for a budget unless there's an increase in funds for public safety.
Go ahead.
Kara McKibben. How should the city tackle racial disparity that's become apparent within the city in terms of childhood poverty, and in our criminal justice system, uneven sentencing, so on, even though you wouldn't have any direct control of that, you would still be an influential person in our community. How would you deal with those issues?
Can you clarify that a little bit more for me? I'm sorry.
Clarified, and what do you need clarified?
So you're saying, how would I bridge the gap between racial issues and
The
criminal?
racial disparity that's become apparent within the city in terms of childhood poverty, number one.
Okay. I believe that the schools in certain districts are stepping up right now. I have learned that I think it's Bon Air and Pettit Park, some of the lower income districts are relying on teachers to help with this issue. It's heartfelt for me. It's sad because I raised 2 small children myself, and for a child to go home with nothing, and not the motherly or fatherly inspiration that they need, but I would hopefully develop programs or work with the Man Up. There's just different programs in the community that are already readily available, but bringing those into those inner city kids that need those.
Mr. Clark.
First thing I would do is ask for help, because I honestly cannot tell you sitting here right now what I would do. So the very first thing I would do is ask for help. Ask for help from programs like Mr. Stewart from Reformation Faith Ministries, programs like Mr. Kim brought up, Man Up. I also ask for help from organizations like United Way. These places and organizations have a lot of experience in that. And so I think that the best thing to do would be to start talking with them first and come up with a plan together on them. But it's definitely not beyond me to ask for help when I need it.
Mr. Skaggs.
Being on the Howard County Plan Commission, I've been blessed with the opportunity to represent the county to the City Plan Commission. One of the things I've noticed is that the city will give approval for various departments, apartments, and developments to go into areas of the city where there are lower income, if you will. Why can't we just carry that out to the rest of the city? What's that telling these kids that are growing up in these lower income areas, that the city is just pushing off to the side? Why can't we take that out to the south end and to the southwest side of town? I just believe that, when we're going to start building, and if our local administration is going to support putting up apartments in areas for, these families to live, that they cover all of Kokomo, not just one particular area. We're all in this together. It's not just this race and that race and so on and so forth. We're all together. Why can't we just build, all together? I reserve the balance of my time.
Mr. Greg Q.
This is an area where certainly it's troubling. There are some organizations that are doing good things in the community to help families that are in this situation now. Long-term, making this a better situation, I believe it goes back to economic development. It goes back to making good jobs available and seeing that we have training in place to bring people up out of those poverty situations. It's something that it's not going to be solved tomorrow, but we can make strides to have resources in place to give people opportunities to better their lives. And that's really the only way you're going to make a lasting change at that.
Mr. Stewart.
Could you repeat that question for me, please?
How should the city tackle racial disparity that's become apparent within the city in terms of childhood poverty?
There are a lot of good programs out there, and I lived in the projects, and I got in trouble. I went to the boys' school, but the thing that helped me most of all was my relationship with Christ, but also the one-on-one connection that I had with people who mentored me and got into my life. So if the city, I think we have enough resources here, but now we need individuals who will step into people's lives and help them change their lives with one-on-one relationships. And I think that when you empower people with those type of relationships, you can change a person's life. I don't think it's lots of more resources, except people spending time with people to show them how you can change. You can't be something until you see something, and that's what I needed to see. I need to see an individual being a husband, doing the right thing for me to become the right thing. So I think it's more about mentorship and good relationship from all levels.
Thank you.
Okay, question number 4.
Who do I ask?
Jason.
Mr. Skaggs.
Okay. I'm on it. Mr. Skaggs, I got the impression that you think that we're spending a little bit too much money and focus on the downtown area. What specific neighborhoods deserve what specific attention?
That's a great question. It's not what neighborhood deserves what attention, because it's every neighborhood deserves the same amount of attention, regardless of if it's Forest Park, the Silk Stocking neighborhood, the near East Side, or downtown. I believe even Maple Crest, Terrace Meadows, although even the annexed areas, Indian Heights, Ivy Hills, they all deserve the exact same attention. If companies want to move here, to attract companies to move to Kokomo, they can't just, we can't have somebody drive them down, Sycamore, oh, this is great, and down to, it has to be the entire city. We're all equal. It's the entire city that needs the exact same attention.
You just said to everybody you're a fiscal conservative, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, and you've already told everybody that you're not going to sign any kind or vote for any kind of a budget that doesn't increase public safety. And public safety is already more than 50% of our budget.
Absolutely.
So you're going to increase that.
Yes.
Okay, so how are you going to pay for all this stuff?
I'm going to pay for this because even though I am firmly, absolutely 100% for increasing the parks budget, when we increase the parks budget by $1.2 million, part of that $1.2 million can go towards adding more officers to our streets, as well as more firefighters, even an ambulance. $1.2 million. Yes, I think that it's great that, and I'm on the Kokomo Parks Department board, and so I love the fact that we're giving more money to beautification and adding to the Parks Department. But part of that $1.2 million can go towards public safety. That's how we're going to pay for it.
So you're going to look at the little departments that have a little bit of money.
No,
so you give the big departments more money.
No, I'm going to look at the big picture, because public safety, you can't put a price tag on someone's life. You cannot put a price tag on someone's loved one. Someone's loved one is not a statistic. It's their loved one.
I'm going to talk real quick. Mr. Skaggs, you would agree that you have to prioritize, though.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to, there's only so much money to go around. You have to prioritize neighborhoods in some fashion before you can move on to the next.
Absolutely, and public safety is my number one for allocating money and signing a budget.
Even at the expense of beautification that might draw those people in, that they say, hey, this place is great, but then, half a mile down the road, this isn't so great.
Absolutely. I would rather someone, I would rather someone live than to, for, anything else. You can't put a price tag on public safety.
Okay, how many police officers are going to make you feel safe?
How many more police?
Yeah.
Well, whenever, on every Sunday, my wife and I, actually Saturday and Sundays, we drive around Kokomo. And during that time, I can tell you 2 weeks ago, we did not see one officer, and it's because I had imagined they were responding to calls, but we did not see one single officer direct policing,
So how many more do we
patrol.
need?
As many as it takes, because like I said, you can't put a price tag on safety.
Okay. So we don't know what you're saying then is you don't know if we have the right amount, but
Well, I know we don't have the right amount if I hear that someone's been murdered.
yeah.
Okay, moving on, Tony. Do you need the question to
Yeah.
be
I do.
repeated? Okay.
Okay. Who's next?
I'm the,
It's the same question that Jason just asked. I'm answering, he just would like
Okay.
the question again, please.
What specific improvements need to be made in specific neighborhoods?
I would have to. I'm up. I would have to
This-
probably, I probably would think the south side. There's some areas on the south side, down by across from the Scoops ice cream shop. That area in there, I think, needs to be.
Can you speak into
I'm
the
sorry.
mic, please?
It needs to be renovated a little bit more. If we're just looking at straight renovations towards the housing area, that would probably be there. I think needs some money put into it.
Same question, Mr. Clark?
If we're talking about specific neighborhoods and specific needs,
Neighborhoods and specific needs.
east of Apperson, north of Jefferson. Specific needs being infrastructure, street repair, sidewalk repair, park upgrades, and blighted properties being used in the current urban infill program the city is already doing. Get rid of some of the abandoned properties and some of the empty lots that we have, and building new houses on there that people can move into and start generating tax revenue off of those through property tax.
Thank you, Mr. Greco.
I guess I don't have a specific agenda for any particular neighborhood, but I do look forward to working with the new mayor and the head of the street department and so on to look at what needs there are, to look at what areas are most in need of either sewers, streets being repaired, those things that are going to be able to maintain infrastructure and keep us moving forward. I don't know that there's any one area that I think we should target, but it's about looking at the whole and making sure that we're prioritizing. I mean, that's something that running a business, it's always about prioritizing and finding where you can make the most impact. So that would be something I would look at the folks that are in those jobs to be able to give us information to make those decisions.
Mrs. Kitts-McKibben.
Hi. I've actually spent time driving around in the Indian Heights subdivision just recently. It'd been a long time since I had been out there. That was one of the properties that was annexed in 2007. I spoke with a few of the neighbors out there, and they were discussing that when it rains, there is major, major flooding and sewage problems that back up out there. They sometimes say that it's not the safest neighborhood, so they would like more lighting put in those areas. And always a top priority in this town are the roads. They're full of potholes, and they need to be repaired first. And it's just about every neighborhood that I have been in, unless it's brand new work that's been done in the last, right before the snowfall. So that's all.
Question number 5.
Very quickly, collectively, we would all agree that regardless of the amount of law enforcement that you have, murders are going to happen. We would collectively agree with that?
Yep.
And that it falls on the community It falls on quality of life. And along those lines, and in talking about business enhancement and bringing new businesses and having employees, there's a significant population in the city of convicted individuals can't find a job. They would like to have a job, but they can't be hired. And downtime to those particular individuals is not a good thing. Mr. Griku, do you have a solution to potentially assisting them with improving the quality of their life so that they would potentially not turn to additional crime?
Well, I think that's something that's going to certainly depend on what their convictions have been, how easy it's going to be able to get people to want to make them a part of their team and their business. So that's not an easy solution, certainly. I think that the program that we're running now with the county, with being able to keep people in their jobs. I mean, first off, I mean, if there are people that have a conviction, but they can work in the work release program and not lose their job to start with, I mean, I think that has been a good thing. I think, if there's a way to expand that and continue to keep people with their, supporting their families and maintaining their positions, I think that's a key to that, is to not let it get to the point where they're unemployable.
Ms. Kitts McKibben.
Are you talking about people that have priors that have been incarcerated? Is that what you're discussing, or is it just first time?
First-time offenders, those have just been charged and not convicted. A lot of your employers have access to those records, and we all know that on an application, you have to indicate whether you've been, the full spectrum of somebody that's just been charged or somebody that's been convicted and since released.
Well, I feel like when you are a business owner and when you are looking for viable help, you want to attract the best candidates possible for your business, because so many people spend so much time building businesses from the ground up that of blood, sweat, tears, time away from their families. And yeah, I mean, I would be apprehensive about hiring someone that has prior incarcerations, but if they were in jail and they had the opportunity to educate themselves while they were, locked up, I would recommend, I know that barbering is an option for men that are in prison that want a job when they get out, and you can be your own boss, so you don't really have to answer to anyone except for yourself and your salon.
Okay, thank you. And I guess it's Tony.
Yeah. This is one area where I definitely think the city could partner with companies, because everybody makes mistakes. I've made mistakes. I've gotten myself in trouble, but they didn't stop me from going to different places in my life. When I go down to the jail and visit with individuals, they have made some terrible mistakes in their life. But this is where trade schools can come in: plumbers, electricians. If we can incentivize companies to hire them, give them, I would be okay if we could put a program together to incentivize them to get a tax break, because then if you have an employee that's working, they're paying taxes and the city's benefiting, because they're going to eat and they're going to take care of their families. If they don't have the way to do it, then they're going to do something illegal. So I think that's a way that we can get them fully back employed and get some confidence about themselves and get their lives on the right track. And everybody deserves a second chance, and I think if you beat a person down, they'll just turn into something we don't want them to be.
Ms. Clark.
If we're talking about nonviolent felons, I do believe a workforce development training program could easily be implemented. There's also things the city council could do, small level tax abatements for those businesses if they own their own property that they're on. Not much we can really do on payroll taxes or sales tax or anything, but there are things that we can do through property tax abatements with quite a bit of oversight on that to make sure it's not being abused. As far as violent felonies go, there would have to be a pretty high standard for them to climb to show that they would be eligible to receive any help from the city through that workforce development program to make sure that their recidivism rate would be as low as possible.
And finally, Mr. Skaggs.
Instead of just handing out a job to someone when they, come out of jail or prison after either serving their time or for whatever length they're in there for, I believe we should get to the root of the problem. Mental illness is a serious thing in our city. Whether it's mental illness from, people, becoming addicts and then getting arrested for having possession of various narcotics, the opioid problem. I don't believe that we should do anything until we get to the root cause of the problem. And with that individual, we can, the city council can provide funding to various entities that can help with the mental health issues. And then subsequently, if there's a situation where we can have a community garden or something where they can work out to help support themselves, but something to just, help these people. We're all in this together. They're one of us. They've just hit a rough road, or they have, situations that you and I, we can't fix. We don't have the degrees in mental health. But I believe we should get to the root of the problem first.
Okay, question number 6.
Mr. Clark, I believe it's up to you.
Yes, sir.
Would you support funding to undo infrastructure work undertaken within the city in recent years? Why or why not? And if so, which particular project would you undo?
The only way I would fund the removal of any existing infrastructure that's been put in, let's say, I don't know, I'm assuming the past 2 years, is if it was guaranteed that before the removal of that infrastructure that is new, that has been put in, we fix our existing infrastructure first. I do not believe that it is a fiscally responsible position to advocate driving a bulldozer down Washington Street removing bump outs. As I understand, the city paid for part of that. The other part was paid for state grants, and if we were to do that now, we'd be paying the state grants back, plus the money that we paid to have it put in, plus the money to be having it taken out. So before we go tearing up roads again or further, we should probably fix the roads that are already torn up.
Okay. But you realize we're going to, fixing infrastructure is always a continuing saga. It'll
Yes, sir.
never not.
Correct. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I believe we should go back to a quadrant system to where each corner of the city gets done in a rotation. The biggest problem with our infrastructure that we have now is that for years we've put patches and potholes and top coats over a lot of things without actually fixing the underlying problem of the foundation of the roads. Every winter, we had a bad winter. Well, no. It's the foundation of the road is terrible, and now we need to dig them up, and it's going to cost millions of dollars because for 25, 30 years, we haven't been doing the work that needs to be done.
Mr. Graycue.
I think that's something that we need to look at. Are there some areas with the changes that have been made that are causing reoccurring problems? Are we seeing traffic issues? Are we seeing damage to vehicles? You hear a lot of people complain about the roads and the changes that have been made. That's something that I'm not of a mind that we need to spend more money to just change things for the sake of changing them back. I think that as we look at that and see areas that have a need for a change, then yes, we could allocate resources to do that. But again, I think, as Alex said, we need to fix the roads that we have not been putting the resources in, rather than go back through just to change things.
Mr. Skaggs.
Regardless of what administration comes in, I believe that it's important for us to sit down with the patrolmen, the chauffeurs, and EMS personnel and get their viewpoints and their input on road construction, because they're the ones who have to navigate this during emergency situations. You know, it would be easy for us to say we should do this or that with our roads to make them look nice, but with public safety, it's, you know, can you drive a fire truck down that area? You know, what happens if you have to, you know, pull off or slow down with another vehicle? So I believe it's important that we, you know, sit down and discuss this with all of our
So then
public
you
safety
would
personnel.
Vote to
My vote would be,
undo certain work if you thought it was.
right, and
Safety.
I'm not going to vote yes or no for anything unless I have the input from public safety, because that's paramount. You know, it's, if my granddaughter, you know, needs an ambulance and the ambulance can't get through down that certain street, then, you know, that falls back on me and us as a city. And so I think it's pertinent that we include, you know, not just the brass, but the actual, you know, people that are driving these roads in emergency situations.
Kara McKibben.
The infrastructure right now is a #1 concern for pretty much every door I've knocked on during campaign season. So when it comes to removing and undoing that, like Alex said, I would first hit the areas and use those areas for repair first. And he's not saying with potholes and just filling them, it's actual grade work and digging them out and completely putting new roads in. I did have the idea that there should be a community bulldozer party if there were areas that were absolutely undrivable. But roads need to be wide. We don't need narrow roads. And as far as beautification goes, I do like some of the upgrades, but they do need to be drivable, and they do need to have ways for emergency vehicles to get through. I come from a long line of truck drivers, and my dad and my grandparents have had businesses in this city for a really long time. I'm sorry. And sometimes it's hard for them to make it deliveries into their areas.
Thank you very much.
Tony?
Yeah, I'm not in for redoing all the infrastructure, but I did speak to some firemen. They said there are some areas where the fire trucks have some difficulties getting down when there's some emergency situations. So if there could be some possible work on those areas for safety concerns, I could see why that area may have to be redone after there's some involvement, so for the safety of patients. So.
Okay.
So we have 5 more minutes for questions. So let's start with question number 7.
All right. Does that mean I ask Alex?
No.
We start with Tony.
All right, I don't even know why I have this paper. Okay.
If you don't understand it, you don't need it.
No, I don't. Okay.
Tony, man.
All right. Tony. The city of Kokomo has much greater capacity for borrowing money to do projects. Do you believe that the city can afford to continue to fund projects with bonding?
It depends. It depends on if we can, if GM, if Chrysler, if we have the income, and if the city is bringing in enough revenue to do that.
Okay.
If that stops and we don't bring in other revenue sources, then we shouldn't keep doing that.
Mr. Clark, same question. You think that, I know that we've got more capacity. You think that we should continue down the road of bonding?
I think that our current, last number I heard was about 120 million in borrowing power as far as the city goes. Our 2019 principal and interest payments that are going to be due this year is about $988,000. 2020, it's expected to be about 1.2 million. There are a few things that are going to change with a couple of bonds that are going to be paid off. Personally, I believe that if we're going to be undertaking projects for capital improvement, if we've got the cash, we ought to be using the cash. Not blowing the entire bank account out, but I definitely believe we ought to be using cash first, and bonding should only be done in situations where we may not be able to recapture some of the money spent out over the course of 10, 15 years.
Thank you. Mr. Skaggs.
I believe that the lower that our debt is, the more attractive we become to businesses. I believe that businesses such as Mishawaka, they attract more business because of a lower debt ratio. And so unless it's a major situation or issue, then I would prefer to stay as frugal as our city can be, as long as we are still safe.
Thank you. Mrs. Hitz-McKinney.
I am probably the most frugal person sitting up here tonight. I'm going to pride myself in that I know what it's like to put hard work in, and I know what it's like to make sacrifice, and I know what it's like to not be materialistic. In doing so, I pride myself on not having a credit card. I come from no debt right now besides my vehicle that I have purchased. My husband and I have worked very hard. We've paid off our mortgage, and to be 37 and 40 to do that seems pretty outstanding. As far as bonds go, if it's a benefit that fits the city, yeah. If not, then no.
Okay. Mr. Kirkey.
That's something that I think that the issue of bonding has to be taken very seriously. It's not something that should be used just for any project. But at the same time, if it's a project that is going to benefit the city, if it's going to lead to greater job growth, if it's going to do those things where you're going to see a true increase in revenues, then I could see a need to do that. But it would have to be something that is carefully scrutinized on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, do we want to just try one more question?
Pressure's on. Okay. First, I applaud all of you sitting up here and representing your communities as a same thing with our Ms. Cox-Stover and Mr. Wright. But as you know, a leader is not a leader without followers. A mentor is not a mentee without a mentee. And I'll start with you, Mr. Skaggs, and we'll just work our way down. I'm going to go off, throw this sheet away for a second. I asked this in a different manner the first time. I asked why somebody would be a leader of people. I want to know why these people in here should follow you into the future.
I believe you should follow me into the future because not only do I care about you, but I care about your friends. I care about your family. These aren't my opponents sitting up here. These are my friends. We've all bonded. And I don't just care about your families. I care about your kids as friends. We live in a great city. We really do. I was born and raised here. Kokomo's awesome. It really is. We have a lot of things to be proud of. And I want to continue to lead us. I want to lead us into, the next generation with term limits. I'm placing a term limit upon myself. That's my goal, because we need to leave something for the next generation so that they can improve what their generation needs. But I truly want to, I don't want to be, it's my job, it would be my job to represent you, not represent an administration.
1 minute, thank you.
a leader for me is just being a regular I'm just a regular person, and I want to represent the community the best way I know how, and that is with a lot of heart. It's a lot of hard work. I'm creative, and I'm a problem solver also. And honestly, when it boils down to this community, I mean, I'm proud to be from here. I'm proud. And I would be proud to represent anyone willing to back me during this campaign.
I feel like I have proven myself in this community in business. I'm in a leadership role every day with our business. It's something that I have spent 25 years serving this community, leading our staff, and trying to make a positive difference in that every day to this community. I believe that my work on local boards, volunteer work that I've done, all of those things are leadership functions that have made me ready to do this, that they have made me a more well-rounded person and able to lead at this time in this community. And I'm looking forward to working with some of these good people here to make good changes for this community. We have a great future, and I look forward to being a part of making that a reality.
You know, I want to serve you all. You know, I could be at home and take the easy road out, but that's what I do. I like to serve. And I like to fight, too. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't mind going at it, and I think you need somebody that will fight with you. I think that sometimes people think when they're successful that they just sit back. I have an obligation to serve, to help those that look like me, that don't look like me, that are put in situations where sometimes people get in cliques and decide they don't want to serve people. And I choose not to do that. I serve God, and therefore I have integrity at a different level. So I'm fortunate to be like that. So I believe that they gave a lot of questions up here today. Not all the information, but know that we'll make decisions with all the data there. And I'm going to serve well if I'm chosen, but I got to do what God told me to do, and that's serve the people that He's called me to serve. That's what I do.
Gentlemen, with all due respect, I've been talking to you all night, so I'm going to address the crowd here now. The question being, why should they follow us into the future, electing the city council? For almost 10 years, my business has been in the business of protecting homes and businesses in the community with security alarms, cameras, access control, things like this. My technicians know that if I'm going into a crawl space, they had better be right on my boots behind me, because if I'm going in there, there's obviously a pretty big problem that they couldn't fix. That's the intention that I have going into city council as well. There are very, very fine people that currently sit on the city council. I look forward to working with anybody who ends up staying on the city council, as well as hopefully a lot of these guys sitting up here with me. Out of the 3 individuals sitting in here who very well could be mayor, obviously one of you will be. I look forward to working with whoever it ends up being as well. We have to get past party politics. I believe that the idea of because we have different ideologies in politics means that we should not support each other. And it's my very strong belief and conviction that we will work together with each other to get things done in the community.
Okay, now we will have closing statements, and you may each have 2 minutes, and we'll start, Alex, with you and then come this way.
Put me back on the spot again? Okay. History has repeated itself in Kokomo on more than one occasion. Continental Steel closing, Chrysler filing bankruptcy in the 80s, Delphi filing bankruptcy, and then the recession just a few short years ago. Each time we've managed to scrape by, but only barely. That's got to change. We need to diversify the economy in Kokomo to be less dependent on heavy industry, number one. We've got to get the public safety by working with the public safety experts, the guys who are actually doing the job, talking with them about what we need, what they need, money, technology, things like that. There is not one single person here, and I think I can speak for all of us, that will tell you, well, we've got the magic bullet, because none of us do, because it does not exist. It's going to take a lot of hard work, it's going to take a lot of teamwork, and it's going to take every single person getting out to the polls, voting, regardless of who you're going to vote for, although we do hope it's us, to get out there and work with us to make sure that we are addressing the problems that we have, as a community, face, and make sure that we work together to fix those problems so nothing gets left behind. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be easy. And I think that with teamwork, hard work, we can get it done. Thank you.
Well, you know, I have a unique set of skills. I'm a nurse, I'm an administrator, I have an MBA, and I realize that we have to have projects that are ground ready and property that's ground ready, that companies can come in and set things in and be ready to start off and grow businesses right away. But I also know we can't neglect some of the areas that we have here that have to be put together for people that want to come to Kokomo. But we got a safety issue that we have to make sure that we deal with, from the policemen to the firemen, and just changing our whole economic sites that we have out here. These are things that have to be done, whether we want to deal with them or not. They have to be dealt with. And we have to make sure, just because I share my opinion with you or have a different opinion, don't mean I don't like you, and that don't mean you have to go around bad-mouthing me and talking crazy to me. The facts are we need change, and I believe I'm one of the people that can help this change come about. So I implore you to please consider voting for me.
This has been a good discussion this evening. I would appreciate your support as we move forward. I believe that I'll be able to work with the new administration, the other people on this council that we form, and city workers in all the departments to find a balance and to be able to prioritize and make good decisions and create good solutions for the city of Kokomo. We have wonderful police and fire employees. The officers in those departments put themselves out there every day, and I want to see them treated with the respect that they very, very much deserve. So as we move forward, certainly public safety is a huge priority. It's something that we have to know that we're working at the right levels. It's not about how many we used to have. It's not about anything other than how many we need to have to effectively protect our community. That has to be a priority. How do we pay for all that? We pay for all that through creation of good jobs. That comes with looking at ideas to diversify our employer base, to look at that diversification, to find companies that will well fit with the workforce we have available, and to make ready-made sites available to bring companies here to make our community more attractive for relocation than another. I've talked in the past about treating our taxpayers and other businesses like customers. If we do that, if we approach this as they are our customer, it's the same as we do in our business. It's a matter of showing the customer value for what they're spending. So a new business coming in is going to spend tax dollars. A family that chooses to live in our community is going to spend tax dollars. We need to show them the value and the services we're providing them, and I'm ready to help do that.
As a council member, I will be a representative. Each city issue and budget brought to me will be well researched to benefit the taxpayers in this community. The council can no longer be a rubber stamp and ignore the voices who elected them. I will bring back that voice and listen when community members want to share their concerns. I have seen it too many times, and personally, when I stood with over 1,000 people at City Hall for our firefighters, the people there represented every demographic of our community, from the UAW Strong to area families just wanting their concerns heard and acted upon. That did not happen. It was told that this was not the time or place, and if you don't like it, vote us out. Well, I am here. I will not sit back and complain anymore. I am stepping up and taking action to be the positive change for the better, and trust, transparency, and collaboration are my guiding principles. Thank you, and I look forward to your vote.
I got to follow these guys. No, in all seriousness, I thank you all tremendously from the bottom of my heart. It's nice out today, and I know there's a lot of other things that you guys could be doing, but the fact that you're here and taking part of this process, it speaks volumes, not just for our country, but, for Kokomo, and I truly appreciate it. But I believe that the City Council needs to represent everyone, not different groups, but each and every single person, because like I had said earlier, we're all in this together. I believe that we need to empower individuals, empower them to seek their dreams and their goals, because we all have goals, we all have dreams that we want to accomplish, but with less government interference and with, a council that backs you up in, what you want to do, to overcome that, and safety. We all want to be safe, we want our families to be safe. Yes, we still have to lock our doors. It's the right thing to do. But we all want to be safe. But I believe that we should capitalize on momentum. And we have a beautiful city. We really do. And I'd like to see us carry that out to the rest of the town. In areas that, don't have as, good as what it has downtown or, some of the other sides where we've put in a lot of different things. But, I'm here for you. I'm here to represent you. That's our job, not to represent any particular administration, regardless of what administration gets in, but it's to represent you and your families, because you're the constituents. And I truly thank you for your time, and God bless all of you.
Okay, let's show appreciation for all of our candidates tonight. Thank you very much for coming, and also let's show applause for our panelists. And just a reminder that the sponsors for this evening are the Kokomo Perspective, the Kokomo Tribune, the League of Women Voters of Howard County, and the Greater Kokomo Chamber of Commerce. And we hope to see all of you here next week at the same time for the mayoral forum. Thank you and good night.